Good morning, everyone. Almost good afternoon. I'm 2 hours late today. I apologize. I had a gathering with the family as we prepare for a funeral tomorrow, as we prepare to celebrate the life of Jenna Eshelman. And so that started at 10 o'clock, and we just got finished up. They just left, and I actually just practiced the song that I'm going to sing for the funeral. And so here we are. And I know I'm 2 hours late. And I apologize, but 2 hours late is better than not at all, I suppose. So hopefully you'll join me at some point today. And as always, I'll appreciate it. And if you join me, if you'll still say good afternoon, that would be great, just so I know somebody watched along the way. So it's a beautiful day out today. And this day of spring, and hopefully it continues to be like this. So I've chosen from this story from the Gospel of Luke, chapter 5, verses 4 through 6. And so these fishermen have been fishing all night, and they're tired, and they haven't caught anything. And of course, Jesus shows up. We know the story. Jesus shows up and challenges them to throw their nets on the other side. And so we hear this. When Jesus had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down your nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we have worked all night long, but we have caught nothing. Yet if you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done this, they caught so many fish that their nets were beginning to break. So I was thinking about the abundance that happens in this story. You know, they weren't used to catching so many fish, that their nets were about to break. I was just talking to our family for the funeral tomorrow about dinner, about lunch that we'll host here. And, you know, there is such an abundance of good food. We put out the word, "Can you help prepare food for us?" And people say yes, and they bring these dishes, and it is amazing how good it is. And we always have enough. And I said to them, you know, what we'll do is we'll put out to-go containers, and you can take what's left. I thought about that, you know, and you know that I do a lot of cooking here at church, and I go to the grocery, and I try to think about how many people are coming, because we usually don't have a sign-up sheet. How many people are going to come? And then I try to gauge what I'm buying. I try to multiply servings per container, or think about how much of this or how much of that. But when you're making salad, for example, it's hard to gauge. And so I just think about it. And when we get here on a Wednesday night, there's always more than enough. We have an abundance. And we get out the to-go containers, and people take stuff home. This story is a reminder to me that these disciples, these soon-to-be disciples, these fishermen, receive a blessing that's completely out of proportion from what they're expecting, from what they're even hoping, from what even their wildest imaginations are. Exhausted from this very long night of fishing with no results, they put back out begrudgingly to the sea. I'm sure they'd rather go home. But Jesus challenges them, and they're probably thinking in their mind, maybe, just maybe, they can catch enough fish to feed their family. But, you know, from the tug on their nets, they can tell they have more than enough. Too much for their families, probably too much for every family in town. It's an amazing story, lesson, highlight for us. It's, to me, a story of God's grace, a story of God's love, a story of God's mercy, a story of God's welcome, a story of God's peace, that all we've been given, all of this grace of God that just comes flowing to us, is too much to bring it alone. Really too much to keep it to ourselves. It's really more than enough to share. And friends, I think sometimes we forget that. You know, that all that God gives us, God's love, grace, mercy, peace, hope, joy, all the words, all the gifts of the Spirit that we've been given, they're really, what we were given is really too much. I sometimes post meme a picture, when you have more than you need, build a larger table and not higher fences. And I believe that to be true. And we've always said about dinners, whatever kind of dinner we have, our philosophy always is we'd rather have too much than not enough. And for folks to take it home out of abundance. And that's what it is that God gives us, and how God calls us to share our lives with each other, knowing that we have enough to share. And sometimes we're beleaguered. I've had a rough couple of days physically, and I've been beleaguered. Not be able to walk very well. I'm a lot better today, thankfully, but I've been not be able to walk well, and been struggling with the physical nature of my health, and just the pain of walking. But then I'm reminded in the story, in spite of that, in spite of being worn out, like you, I too am challenged to cast my nets again. Go back out, cast my nets, and the catch is large. So much so that there's enough to share. And I would pray that you and I would recognize that in our lives, and that we would find out and remember that we have enough. And because we have enough, we really have to share it with others. And that's a gift that we sometimes don't recognize. And that's not on us. This catch wasn't on those fishermen, it was on Jesus. They simply had to cast their nets. And you and I, it's not on us, it's God. It's God, it's God, it's God who gives us too much. It's God who calls us to share it with each other. So might we do that with great vigor, and might we do that with great hope for the world, and to share it with others. It's another difficult funeral tomorrow, and I'm feeling beleaguered by it. And I'm going to sing, and it's going to be hard. Janet was a saint of this church, a great person, been here her entire 75 years. We just want to honor her life and hope that we do that to the best of our ability. And, it's a reminder to me to just trust God today and tomorrow, to cast my nets again, knowing that God will give me enough. And God will give you enough. And that's great news for us in this day, in this time in our lives. So thanks for joining me. I'm a couple hours late. Thanks for always being with me. I appreciate it. Thanks for always being present, and for your love and for your grace. And thank you. And just know of God's love that surrounds you, and know of my love for you. And I'll see you tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Have a great day.